Alright everybody, we're back with a brand new survival challenge. Now I do need to specify this is going to work a little bit differently than the Cult of the Lamb survival challenges did. In that survival challenge, I had the main characters of different series jump into that world. Go on the island that is Cult of the Lamb and see if they can survive on the island. And originally that's what I was going to do here too. I was going to take the main characters of a bunch of different shooter series and just throw them in the Doom universe and see if they can survive. But then I thought, that's fucking stupid. What would be way more interesting is if they got to stay in their universe and have the demon invasion invade their universe. They get to be on their home turf. Because what's going to end up happening if you throw them in the Doom universe is they're going to start using a bunch of technology that exists in that world, and you're not really going to get a good sense of them versus the demons. It's basically going to be like this character from this other franchise using the BFG against the demon. And honestly, I just thought that was fucking lame, so I'm not doing that. So don't let the pictures on the thumbnail fool you. It's not so much one character versus the invasion. It's the invasion against their entire universe. Lastly, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership, because if you join the membership, you get my videos early. And that's pretty neat. All right, enough wasting your time. Let's get started. Now, first up, before we get into the survivors, you have to know what the fucking challenge is. So what exactly does the Doom demonic invasion entail? Well, it's pretty fucked up, guys. For one, you have to understand the Doom demons are not actually demons. They're called demons in the game because the humans call them demons because they resemble what their idea of demons would be like. But they're actually a race of people from a planet called Jakad, which was one of the first planets to exist in the entire multiverse. You see, the god of the Doom universe's name is Davith. He's so powerful that just existing, he just passively creates universes without even actually trying to. But one day he decided that he's actually going to try to create a universe instead of just letting it happen naturally. And he decided to sculpt this universe and this race of people to try and see if he can make the perfect society and the perfect beings. And I guess he sort of did. See, originally the race of beings that lived on Jakad didn't look like they do in the game that we see. They just look like humans. They were made by Davith to be extremely physically powerful, as well as removing any weaknesses that all other races across all the other universes that he created. And I mean every single weakness. The residents of Jakad do not feel pain, fear, insecurity. They don't have any negative feelings whatsoever, neither physical nor emotional. On top of that, he ups their ambition to an insane degree. Every single resident of Jakad has ridiculous levels of ambition. There are no lazy Jakadians. So you might think that this was just a grand old idea. No, not really. You see, if you're going to give everyone on an entire planet limitless ambition and no guilt or fear, you're going to tend to realize that morality isn't really all that important to them. Without really realizing it, Davith created the perfect universal conquerors. This is a group of people that has no limits to what they are willing to do, not only in terms of their conquering, but also in terms of their scientific advancements. And over the course of the entire existence of their race, which, let me remind you, is considerably older than our entire universe, their scientific advancements corrupted them not only mentally, but also physically to make them be what they are as we know them in the game. Now, that technology takes a lot of forms, but the most dangerous and most relevant form would be Argent energy. The demons took their demonic energy and fused it with Wraith energy, and then it became Argent energy, which is essentially a ridiculously over-the-top, most exaggeratedly powerful source of energy that could possibly exist ever. It's fucking insane. With just a very small amount of it, and I mean enough to fill up a cup of coffee maybe, they were able to power multiple bases on Mars. They had enough energy to match several nuclear reactors over the course of their entire lifespan, every single second. It is an insane energy source. And what the demons decided to do with that energy source is essentially replace all of their blood with it, basically. Every single demon in the entire game bleeds Argent energy, which is not only an extremely powerful energy source, but it also burns stupidly fucking hot. Yes, you heard that right. The Jakadians essentially have magma running through their veins that has the power of several different nuclear reactors just inside of them at all times. Every single demon, from the most powerful demons to the little shitty imps that you can one-shot in the game, they all have this shit in them. And what the Jakadians decided to do with all that power is basically open up portals into other universes, invade those universes, then corrupt the universes and absorb them into their own universe, making their universe bigger and more powerful. I said universe a whole lot just now. And they've been doing this longer than our universe has even existed. So their universe is insanely big, and they have so many forces. Essentially, if the demons invade a universe, they're gonna fucking take it. So the next question becomes, what can our heroes expect to see when these demons actually do to invade their world. This is the fun part, everybody. We get to list off the baddies. Now, I'm not going to cover every single enemy type because there's like fucking 40. This is a long ass series. I'm not going over all of them. I'm going to go over the ones that are actually relevant and put forth interesting challenges for our heroes. I don't need to stand here and tell you that the imp is this little dude who throws argent energy balls and the gargoyle is a flying variation and this asshole does this. Look, if I don't talk about them, it's probably because their only real ability is that they hit people hard. I'm not going to say that 30 times. Look, if any of these heroes get wiped out by the imps, they don't deserve to be on this list anyway. So it's just not relevant. The first one we're going to talk about is the Possessed. And yeah, if you played the game, you're probably rolling your eyes because the Possessed is the only thing weaker than the fucking imp. So why am I talking about it? Well, because in the lore, the Possessed are humans that were possessed by demon souls. The existence of the Possessed means that the demons can indeed possess people. Now, the only time we've actually seen them do this was in Doom 3, which isn't even in the same continuity. In all of the current timeline canon games, they've just talked about it and it's been written in codexes. But the way it worked in Doom 3 is that the lost soul flew into a human body and then possessed him and took over his body and all that shit. The lost souls are the second being we're going to talk about. They're literal fucking flying souls. They just fly around and they try and fly in your body and fuck you up from the inside. Now, talking about these two enemies are important because it brings up the possibility that our heroes might get fucking possessed. It's sort of a big deal if they've never been possessed before. Now, luckily for them, the lost souls aren't particularly intelligent, and when they do possess people, they basically just turn into mindless zombies. So we're not looking at like an Evil Dead situation where they have a personality and they're really like start psychologically fucking with you. They're just fucking zombies. It's gonna be fine. But yes, they do have possession. Next up, we have the Cursed Prowler. So within Jakad, they have many different forms of magic. One of them is blood magic. And over the course of who knows how many years of evolution, some of these creatures have evolved naturally to be able to use that magic from birth and not have to learn it. The Cursed Prowlers are one of these such creatures. Being struck by a Cursed Prowler does exactly what it sounds like it does. It fucking curses you. It makes your blood begin to curdle inside your veins, which by the way is a death sentence, as well as robs you of your essence. Now, I misspoke earlier in the video when I said that Argent Energy was demonic energy fused with Wraith energy. I was just on a roll saying the word energy. It was actually called Hell Essence. And when a demon says essence, they're talking about your soul. Demonic essence is the souls of their victims that is essentially liquefied and turned into an energy source. So basically, the curse from the Cursed Prowlers hitting you not only curdles your blood, but also steals your soul. The only way to get rid of the curse is to kill the person that cursed you. Then we have the Arachnotron, a big ass fucking metal spider tank with a plasma cannon on the back of it that someone decided to stick a demon inside of. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? Then you have the Carcass, which is actually just a dead fucking body that they put inside this little robot remote thing, and it's not really alive. It'll keep moving and trying to kill you constantly, and as long as its nervous system is plugged into the metal part, it will continue to do this until you disconnect it from the metal part. This sounds fucking terrifying, but essentially you can fuck up the main body all you want. As long as it's still attached, it's still gonna keep moving. It's like a fucking cockroach. It also has a giant cannon on its arm and can produce force fields. Not soul force fields, just like regular fucking not creepy energy force fields. Then you have the Mancubus and the Cybermancubus. While the Mancubus just has flamethrowers, the Cybermancubus actually shoots out like this corrosion liquid shit that is specifically designed to go through the plated armor of tanks. And it's stated in the codex to not only be corrosive, but also extremely hot. That and the Cybermancubus is like really heavily armored. It's like a Mancubus tank. Then you have the Hell Knight, and this is where you start to see just how strong these motherfuckers can get. The Hell Knight is seen casually busting through several feet of solid stone, like a whole wall of solid stone, just coming through that bitch like the fucking Kool-Aid man. It's also stated in the codex that the UAC, which was basically this massive corporation that had a contract with the military that was going into hell and capturing demons and shit, throughout all of their incursions into Jakad and into hell, not once were they ever able to bring down a Hell Knight. Despite the UAC being a trained military with damn near limitless resources and all the best weaponry that Earth has to offer in this crazy futuristic universe, they were completely incapable of harming one of these things. So just note, from this point on, you're basically looking at demons that regular guns don't really do anything against. Like the Dread Knight, which is basically a Hell Knight that a bunch of cultists took in and decided to put a bunch of plated armor on and give them 2 laser swords, because that was a smart fucking idea. Now you might be saying, hey, wait up, Rouga, that don't make no goddamn sense. Doomguy's guns work against them. How are you saying that Earth's weapons don't work? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this is actually something that has confused a lot of fans. Basically, it's been explained by Hugo Martin, the game director of Doom Eternal, that Doomguy gets more powerful every single time he kills someone, and he empowers all of his weapons through his own will. So basically, Doomguy can just walk to the local gun shop, buy any bullshit pistol, and all of a sudden that pistol is going to become strong enough that he can start slaying gods with it. Remember, in the entire series, Doomguy is really the only person who's been able able to successfully fight against the demons. The entire planet Earth was dominated by them in just a couple of weeks. In fact, 70% of the entire population of Earth was wiped out. They put up virtually no resistance. And a big reason why that was is because their fucking guns don't work. I mean, hell, even with the help of Samor Maker, who was bringing in Sentinel technology and was able to make giant fucking mechs, they were still wiped out in just a couple of weeks. It was pretty bad. Then you have the Pinky that is just covered in this natural biological armor that makes it the most durable demon in the entire game. It's like a fucking biological tank. Then you have a Spectre, which is that. It's like the Pinky, but now it's invisible. An invisible biological tank. Yippee! And after all that, we finally get to what Doomguy classifies as the Super Heavies. Each one of these motherfuckers can essentially dominate Earth on their own if they wanted to. They are incredibly powerful. So powerful in which they generally subjugate all of the other demons underneath them. These are people like the Archvile that can open up portals in other dimensions and summon demons, as well as creating a giant Argent shield around itself and throw Argent energy blasts at you while it's at it. Oh, right, almost forgot. They can teleport too. Then you have the Baron of Hell, the physically most powerful of all the Super Heavies. They take a fuck ton of bullets to bring down, and they're basically like 6 of the fucking Hell Knights put together. They're bigger, meaner, stronger, and smarter. Oh, and of course they have a cybernetic variation that has a regenerating force field around it. Great. Then we have the Doom Hunter. And you remember how I said the Pinky is a tank and most durable of all the demons? Well, I stand by that. But the Doom Hunter is a literal fucking tank. Not figuratively, I'm not just saying that because he has a lot of health. They literally took the top half of a fucking demon and stitched him onto the top of a fucking tank. These things were specifically designed to hunt Doomguy. They have pretty much every weapon you can imagine, from a fucking chainsaw arm to rocket launchers to flamethrowers to grenades. They're described as having all the power of an entire tank division of the military, but of course there's more than one. There are a lot of these motherfuckers. They're probably the single demon with just the largest variety of weaponry, as well as having a rechargeable shield that protects all of its mushy demon parts. So if you want to even begin to do any damage to it, you have to either destroy the fucking tank or take out the shield that constantly regenerates and is basically just as strong as the tank part. There's really no good options here. Then we have the Tyrants, who are basically the Wardens of Hell. They're put in the lowest section of the flesh pits where tortured souls are imprisoned, and they're put in charge of basically making sure no one escapes and just torturing everyone who's down there. Of all the demon types that aren't just straight up titans or bosses, these are the biggest motherfuckers. They don't show the sheer raw aggression and physical power of the smaller Baron of Hell, but just looking at this motherfucker's size and the fact that it's enhanced with cybernetics like laser weapons and rockets and all sorts of other shit shows that it's pretty clearly fucking powerful. And the last and most powerful of the Super Heavies is the Marauder. My god, do people fucking hate fighting the Marauders. Personally, I love them. They're like my favorite unit to fight against in the game. But yes, within the lore, they're the most dangerous. They're actually not even legit demons. They're from a species of alien known as the Sentinels who had fought the demons in the past, and the Marauders are the corrupted versions, the ones that basically betrayed their own people and sided with the demons. And because of this, they were granted even more power than the Sentinels already had, which was substantial. Not only are the Sentinels' weapons just straight up made of Argent, like they have an Argent shield that is basically indestructible, and an axe made of Argent that could cut through pretty much anything that exists within the Doom universe. But the things that really make them so dangerous is, one, the Sentinels were the greatest warriors in the entire universe, so both the Marauders' combat skill and experience is considerably more than most other fictional characters, just in general, but also their fucking speed. The Marauders might straight up be one of, if not the fastest characters to ever appear in any shooter ever, because they're the only characters in a shooter that I've seen that are actually programmed specifically in the game to dodge gunfire after it's shot. And this is one of the reasons why people find this enemy so annoying. If you shoot a Marauder at pretty much any point in this fight, he will automatically dodge out of the way no matter what. It's guaranteed. This is not the Marauder reacting to Doomguy aiming his weapon and firing. He's actually reacting after the shot is fired. The Marauder is physically faster than bullets. The only time that you're actually capable of just straight up shooting him is if you wait for them to attack and then fire on him while he's in mid-swing. swing. Now, there are other ways of damaging him. You could fire a rocket near him and then explode it in midair when it's right next to him. And there's certain other ways where you could sort of like trick him into damaging him. But most people who played the game didn't figure that out, so they had a lot of frustration with fighting the Marauder, thinking that they can only damage him when he specifically attacks. Anyway, due to the indestructibility of their shield, the near limitless damage that their weapons cause, the speed to just straight up dodge bullets and lightning and any sort of other laser weapons that you might want to fire at them, and their absolutely peak combat prowess, they are by far one of the most dangerous threats that any of our heroes are going to have to try and survive during this challenge. And the worst part is, like all of the super heavies, there's a lot of them, and our heroes might at some point have to fight more than one at a time. Any single one of the super heavy demons within the Doom universe are capable of taking on whole armies by themselves and surviving. They would be the final boss or even god of lesser universes. But in the Doom universe, they're just another enemy type. And now it's time we get to the actual major biggest threats of the Doom universe. The bosses and the gods. These are characters like the Cyber Demon, who's basically like a fucking earthbender, and also has an energy cannon that shoots out pure Argent energy. Now, Argent energy, when weaponized, is described as being an energy that is capable of destroying every single cell in a body and making them blow up on contact. It literally runs through every single cell and explodes them all individually. Some characters are shown to be able to resist this effect, like Doom Guy, like all the bosses, like the super heavies, although it does massive damage to the super heavies and the bosses. But even for characters like the Hell Knight, a creature that no earth weapon is capable of actually harming, they're still killed by Argent energy weapons in one shot. This would be the BFG and the Unmaker. Well, yeah, the Cyber Demon has one of these weapons. Then you have Gladiator, which was a demon that was captured billions of years ago by the Sentinels, thrown into an arena and then forced to fight for its life against everything from Sentinel warriors to other demons and everything under the sun. In all of that time, Gladiator never once lost. He is a massive, overpowered demon like the Cyber Demon, but he has the fighting skills that are superior to that of the Sentinels. And the visual storytelling on this character is actually pretty decent, because a lot of the moves Gladiator uses are similar to that of the Marauders, who fight using that Sentinel style. And it gave me this theory, although a theory that I think is pretty damn accurate, that Gladiator learned his fighting style from the Sentinels by fighting in their arenas for so long. Then you have bosses like the Spider Mastermind that technically isn't even a demon. It's actually just a human that was so badly corrupted that it transformed into this monstrous abomination. She's basically like the Arachnotrons times, I don't know, 10,000. In fact, after she was killed by Doom Guy and blown into a bunch of little pieces, the Arachnotrons are actually just pieces of the Spider Mastermind that after her death, they just sort of came back to life and had a sort of life of their own. And they started spreading like a fucking virus. So yeah, even killing this bitch and blowing her into little pieces did not actually end her. It just created a whole army of admittedly smaller threats, but they can cover a much wider area. The strength of these bosses are absolutely no fucking joke. They're shown to be physically capable of competing with Doom Guy himself. So how strong exactly is Doom Guy? Doom Guy is so powerful that just with a basic jab, he was able to break chains that enslaved massive titans. Titans are demons so big that they dwarf skyscrapers. Many who are enslaved by the demon lords walk around with massive cities strapped to their back. They are physically unbelievably powerful. And these beings that are so strong they can carry cities around like it's fucking backpack could not break these chains that Doom Guy just busted with a casual jab. This is the strength level that the bosses are shown to be able to compete with, as in a lot of the cutscenes they're shown sort of wrestling with and physically dealing with Doom Guy without instantly being obliterated. Now, while I'm not going to go as far as to say that they are of equivalent strength as Doom Guy, they are strong enough that they can compete with him. Do not let size fool you in the Doom universe. I mean, the strongest being among all the demons is actually just the size of a regular dude. Many of these smaller demons are equal to, if not superior to, the Titans. And that would include the bosses as well. Although not all Titans are the same power, and many excel beyond just the normal Titan you see enslaved. These Titans reach far beyond the boss level and start to get more so in the realm of gods. Now, the strongest Titan to ever exist in the Doom universe, we've never seen. We only hear stories of him. His name was Titan, and all we know is that he was the biggest and most powerful, but Doom Guy killed him billions of years ago. But a Titan that we have seen, which is not the strongest, but definitely more iconic, is the Icon of Sin. He's so big that when he fell and hit the ground, just the weight of his body hitting destroyed, and I quote, untold miles. He's so ungodly powerful that just his presence in any universe that isn't hell creates universe-wide reality warping that, if left unattended to, will eventually end in the complete breakdown and destruction of space-time and make that universe be pulled into hell and just become a part of hell. He's a threat that's so big and so dangerous that he can't even exist in your universe universe without completely fucking destroying it. On top of that, he has a bunch of other powers. He can open up portals in other dimensions, which he uses to summon other demons around him. He can telekinetically pull down meteorites from space and have them come down and smash upon you. He can overpower your mind just with his sheer will and corrupt your soul. Again, just by being in his presence. So I actually haven't explained this before, but one of the most dangerous things about the demons is the demonic corruption. And basically, just their presence in your world corrupts the environment, the souls, and everything else around them just by being there. It's so strong that there were multiple bases on Mars, giant scientific and military bases, that were all corrupted by having one relic that they found in hell. Just one small relic. But when an invasion happens and more demons start showing up, that corruption becomes far more intense. This corruption can affect everything, including like buildings and shit. The buildings will start turning into flesh and be demon-like. The ground and the plants and biological and non-biological things will just start turning into demons. Your mind and soul ceases to exist and you just become another one of the demons. This is what happened to the Spider Mastermind, because the Spider Mastermind used to be human. This is by far the most dangerous thing that the demons do. However, when it comes to the Icon of Sin, it is significantly stronger than anyone else. The Con Maker was capable of resisting this corruption despite being around demons for billions of years, and it never really affected her too negatively. When she released the Icon of Sin, it literally took about 15 to 20 minutes, and she was completely corrupted and basically turned into a demon herself, just by being in the motherfucker's presence. Because unlike most demons who, again, just do it passively, the Icon of Sin actually overpowers your will with his own will. Because he desires you to be corrupted, you will become corrupted. The only person in the entirety of the Doom universe who is shown to be able to resist this is Doomguy himself. And Doomguy's main power, and the reason why the makers chose him to fight against the demons, is because he is incorruptible. He was the only one of them that was capable of fighting against the corruption and basically it just not affecting him at all. But above even the Icon of Sin, the absolute most powerful, strongest enemy in the entire Doom universe is Davith, the god of the Doom universe, the creator of all that exists. A man whose simple existence passively creates universes by not even trying. He's considered the greatest warrior in the entire multiverse. His power is known to be near limitless. And for any Warhammer 40k fans out there, he was very heavily inspired by Khorne, the chaos god of war. And his power shows exactly that. The only reason why Doomguy was able to take him down is because Doomguy was created by Davith as a direct copy of himself. He's essentially a clone of the god of the entire multiverse. No one else in the entire Doom universe is even close to the power of Davith. This would include Father, who became the god of the multiverse after Davith was locked up. Father, who also passively creates universes just by existing. Davith is so powerful that just things that he speaks become true. So in Doom the Ancient Gods, Davith wants to fight Doomguy fairly, and he knows that the fight between him and Doomguy is going to essentially determine the outcome of the entire multiverse. So Davith deems it that him and Doomguy will fight, and if he loses, that him and every single being that exists outside of hell that belongs in hell will instantly cease to exist. This is something deemed by Davith as a challenge to Doomguy. And after Davith is killed by Doomguy, because he deemed that as truth, that is what happens. Every single demon that exists outside of hell ceases to exist. Even after Davith's death, his power does not go away just because he's killed. What he says is truth. Davith, who was tricked by his own creation Father into being locked inside of a soul sphere, even while in that soul sphere, was able to dramatically affect the outside world. He continued to spread corruption. He was able to manipulate the minds of several other godlike beings to get them to do things that would benefit him and eventually lead to his resurrection outside of the life sphere. Davith is one of the absolutely most powerful final bosses in video game history, hands down. And if the survivors could ever hope to actually make it through the survival challenge, at some point they're gonna have to deal with Davith. Okay, we're done. We're gonna move on to the actual challenge. There's way more stuff to talk about within the Doom universe as far as scaling information goes and powers and abilities and shit, but I'm not making this video 4 hours long. Fuck that. Doom has a lot of lore behind it. I think you got enough of a bite-sized chunk of information about what the universe is capable of, and if some other power or ability becomes relevant at some point during this video, I will bring that up as well and explain it at that point. But there's really really just no reason to overflow you with information right now, especially if it's not going to be relevant to whether or not the survivors are going to survive. Alright, so first up on the chopping block, the demons are going to invade the Cyberpunk universe. Most notably from Cyberpunk 2077, but really just the universe as a whole. Since everything within Cyberpunk is canon, that's the game, the show Cyberpunk Edgerunners, as well as even the tabletop games, pretty much anything that happens within any of those things is fair game here. But as always, we take the characters at their absolute most strongest, so where in the Cyberpunk timeline is it at its most strongest? And that would be during the events of Cyberpunk 2077, right before V assaults Arasaka Tower. Why? Because during the assault of Arasaka Tower, V kills Atom Smasher, and Atom Smasher is one of Cyberpunk's greatest fighters. So if I take him from after that point, Cyberpunk is really going to take a major hit by no longer having Atom Smasher. So the invasion is going to happen right before his assault on Arasaka Tower. So how does the Cyberpunk universe fare? And honestly, I think a lot better than you'd expect. To see the clearest example of just how powerful Cyberpunk can get, we'd have to look at Cyberpunk Edgerunners, where the main character of that story, David Martinez, gets into a giant robot mech suit and basically wipes out an entire military tank division all by himself. And major spoilers for Cyberpunk Edgerunners, at the end, David gets into a fight with Atom Smasher where Atom Smasher just easily slaughters David and all of his friends without even really breaking a sweat. David's not even capable of putting a scratch on him. So this would put a character like Atom Smasher significantly above that of an entire tank division. And remember when I said the Doom Hunter is essentially an entire tank division put into a person? That wasn't me just being hyperbolic. That's actually stated in the codex of the game. It said right there that the Doom Hunter has all of the power and weaponry of a full tank division squeezed into a single being. And while maybe that's hyperbolic, I'm going to take it literally because I don't think it's that much of a stretch to assume, especially considering what some of the other demons in the Doom universe are capable of doing. This would put a character like Atom Smasher above the Doom Hunter, capable of taking on a Doom Hunter one-on-one for sure, probably pretty easily. And Atom Smasher isn't even the strongest in the universe. Depending on your decisions in Cyberpunk 2077, V can eventually get into a fight with Atom Smasher 1v1 and kill him. This means that taking V at his absolute most powerful would put him above Atom Smasher. So you basically have two characters that could pretty easily take out Doom Hunters in the Cyberpunk world. That's not nothing. As I've said before, the super heavies like the Doom Hunter are capable of dominating and subjugating whole armies of lesser demons underneath them, just with their own physical power. So this rather surprisingly puts V and Atom Smasher at that same level. They should honestly just go through most of the Doom demons, dominating the shit out of them until they get to these super heavies. That's where it's going to start getting a little more challenging, because while the Doom Hunter is a super heavy, he's not the strongest super heavy. And Atom Smasher and V are going to start having problems when they get to this level. Now, I'm going to lean a lot into Atom Smasher and V in this particular conversation because nobody else in the Cyberpunk universe is shown to be even close to their level of power. So the demons will really just blow through the entire Cyberpunk universe until they hit V and Atom Smasher. They're really going to be humanity's last line of defense, just those two alone. So what exactly can they do against the demons? Well, first off, I'm going to talk about one of the more obvious ones and one of the bigger weapons that characters in Cyberpunk have, and that is their ability to hack. The vast majority of Cyberpunk characters have cybernetic implants that make them superior to just regular human beings. And because of this, most of the most powerful characters in Cyberpunk have really broken hacking abilities that allow them to just straight up shut down other people's brains and just general functions of their body whenever they want. V and Atom Smasher also have the ability to do this. So you'd think that maybe they don't even have to fight a large portion of the demons, since so many of them are cybernetic, like the Tyrant, the Doom Hunters, the Carcasses. Many of them have cybernetics. However, the problem is it's written pretty firmly in the Cyberpunk lore that they can only do this if the thing that they're hacking has some sort of Wi-Fi connection. You can't just hack any piece of machinery. Like, you can't just hack a fucking toaster. V and other characters are shown being able to hack wirelessly to machines that have a wireless connection, but otherwise they have to physically jack into whatever it is they're hacking into. Well, there just isn't any evidence in Doom that any of the cybernetics on the demons have a wireless connection for them to hack into wirelessly. And it's very unlikely they'll have a fucking port jack that they could put a little USB into in order to hack into them physically that way. So their hacking abilities really won't have much of a use here. If they're gonna beat the demons, it's gonna be in a physical confrontation, not through hacking. And as far as physicals go, they actually do have a lot of cool shit. Other than the stuff I've already listed, like being able to destroy damn near an army of tanks, they also have things like the Sand Devastation, which speeds up their reflexes to an insane 15 degrees to the point that they could see bullets flying in slow motion and could just easily pass around people and fuck them up. With the Sandevastine, a skilled warrior can wipe out an entire room of people without them even being aware that he's there in the first place. Some of the better Sandevastines can slow down time up to 80 or 90%. It slows down shit enough that something that's going several times faster than the speed of sound is going about the speed of someone riding a bicycle. It is a tremendous difference in speed. And honestly, with this weapon alone, Atom Smasher and V should be able to wipe out the vast majority of the demons without them even really being able to fight back. Most of the demons just aren't really that fast. And the Sandevastine does have limited uses, as using it does fuck your body up. Certain people can get around this, like Atom Smasher, who actually doesn't have a body. He's basically all mechanical at this point. And while V doesn't have limited uses because his body has a massive resistance to it, it does have a bit of a cooldown. However, later on in the game, you can get to the point where in combat, you're basically always using Sandevastine. So a lot of those limitations just straight up aren't there for either of these characters. However, they're going to find this skill is essentially completely useless when they run into the Marauders. I already said the Marauders are capable of dodging out of the way of gunshots even after the gun is fired and already on its way to the Marauder, but I was kind of underselling them. So there are enemies in Doom Eternal called the Makers, and while the Makers are not going to make an appearance in this survival challenge because they're not demons, they're a totally different faction, they do have light-based laser attacks. And the reason why you know that these are light-based is because all of their laser attacks are yellow. And you can look this up if you want, but basically we as humans with all of our scientific advancement don't know how to make a laser that's not light-based that's the color yellow. You can have more than light-based lasers. There's gas lasers and there's chemical lasers. There's all different types of lasers and they can travel at all different types of speeds. But a gas laser and a chemical laser are green or red or some other color that's not yellow. We don't know how to make a yellow laser that's not made with light. Ergo, any yellow laser is always going to be traveling at light speed. It is a light laser. All of the lasers that are fired by the Makers are yellow. They're all light speed lasers. And Doom Guy is capable of dodging these light speed lasers. The Marauder is introduced as an equal to Doom Guy, even showing having his exact same dodging ability and many of his same attacks. They were both trained by the Sentinels. So if Doom Guy is capable of dodging lasers that are traveling at light speed, the Marauders should also be capable of that. And while I'm not going to go as far as to say that they're traveling at light speed, because that's stupid. If they were traveling the same speed as the lasers wouldn't even be a threat to him. He could just stand there and wait for it to get near him and then move when he wants. It's clearly considerably faster than them. But even if it's dozens of times faster or even hundreds of times faster, that would still make the Marauders considerably faster than V and Atom Smasher while they're using the Sandevastine. At absolute best, V and Atom Smasher are equivalent to the speed of the Marauders, but they're damn sure not faster. And without that massive speed boost, I just don't see Atom Smasher or V being able to survive against someone like the Marauder. They don't have any weapons that are capable of destroying his shield, and they're not durable enough to take a hit from that axe that's made out of pure Argent energy. I think they both will be able to fight up against them for a little bit, because it's not like the Sandevastine is the only thing they have. They have a large variety of different crazy abilities that's going to keep them alive. And Atom Smasher in particular is one of the more intelligent fighters in the entire series. So just to give you a heads up of how the boss fight in Cyberpunk 2077 works, Atom Smasher adapts in the fight based on how your build of V is. So if your build of V is hack based and you played the entire game hacking into people and shit and you fight Atom Smasher, he's going to be extremely difficult to hack into and he's going to come at you in a physical sense while having these really high hack defenses that you won't be able to get through. On the other hand, if you've built your V to be more of a physical fighter and you go after Atom Smasher, you'll start to notice that he's going to start hacking into you more and fucking with you that way. Basically, the AI in 2077 for the boss fight of Atom Smasher adapts to how you play the game and builds Atom Smasher in the perfect way to make the boss fight as hard to you as it possibly can. And this translates into the lore as Atom Smasher being a very intelligent fighter and playing on the weaknesses of his opponent. And even despite this, he was not capable of taking down V. So this would make V and Atom Smasher very intelligent fighters. And I think that will help them a little bit. But at the end of the day, I just think that the Marauders have way more defense, way more attack, just because of their Argent weapons on both of those counts, and speed that is considerably more than both of them. Now, maybe you can argue that both of them might be able to take on one Marauder, or maybe one of them can take on a Marauder at a time. But remember, there isn't just one Marauder. And there are times in the Doom games where you have to take on 2 or 3 at a time, along with a bunch of other people. Throw in an Archvile, throw in some Hell Knights, and a bunch of imps and and shit. And I don't see a scenario where these two aren't completely overwhelmed by what would essentially be the most powerful force any of them have ever seen. I think they'll fight valiantly through the initial waves, taking out all of the fodder enemies very easily, and even some of the heavies will not really be that much of an issue for them. They'll even be able to take on the Hell Knights and the Dread Knights. But when the super heavies start showing up, you'll start realizing that it's a little bit harder for them, and they're fighting on more equal footing. Anything above the super heavies, they're getting fucked. It ain't even gonna be close. They don't stand a fucking chance against people like the Gladiator or the Cyber Demon. So that's their ranking. They get up to the super heavies. You know, this is actually pretty cool because in Doom, the way they classify their enemy types, I can actually give all of these characters a legit rating of just how far they will get. Doom rates their enemies with fodder, heavy, super heavy, bosses, and gods. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take all of these characters and I'm gonna classify them by one of those ratings, as that being the group that they can fight against. V and Atom Smasher at super heavy rank. I like it. Now there's definitely a possibility that they get done in way before they even hit a super heavy, since they have absolutely no resistance to the hacks that the demons possess. Like, they have no way of defending against possession, soul ripping, or the corruption. So I'd say physically they're like mid-tier super heavies. Now their speed might defend against this for a little bit, but you can't really outspeed the corruption. So while I am putting them in the super heavy category, consider them on sort of the lower end of the super heavy category. And you all know how I like to do it. I like to have one survivor character that everybody knows from a game that's very popular, and one survivor character that no one's ever fucking heard of. And today that unknown character is coming from Darkwatch, a cool little horror western shooter that came out a while ago. Most of you kids weren't even born yet. So Darkwatch stars a bank robber known as Jericho Cross. And one day he decides to pull off a heist on a train, believing that there's all sorts of wealth and money there, only to find out that this train is actually owned by an organization known as Darkwatch, which is basically a secret government organization that fights vampires. And when he opens up the vault, he realizes that it's actually not money in there, but instead it's imprisoning one of the most dangerous vampires who ever lived, Lazarus. Lazarus bites him, turning him into a vampire, and then flies off. Jericho is then picked up by the Darkwatch and given a decision. Either one, they could kill him because he's a vampire now, or two, he can help them fix his fuck up and bring Lazarus back. Obviously, he decides to bring Lazarus back. Now, there's a little caveat when it comes to this game that doesn't exist with several of the other characters that I'm using on these lists, and that's basically that in this game, you can be good or evil. And Jericho's power level is vastly different depending on which one you are. So basically, I have to choose how exactly I'm going to go about this. Should I choose the good Jericho, which is significantly weaker and has a whole other list of powers, or the evil Jericho, who is considerably stronger with way better powers, but then I just kind of ignore all the good Jericho stuff? It's kind of difficult, but if I'm going to use the characters at their most powerful, then I have to go with evil Jericho, despite the fact that most people who played this game probably played as good Jericho. So yeah, I guess I'm going with evil Jericho. And very much like Cyberpunk 2077, this isn't really going to be so much going up against the whole universe as much as it's going to be going up against Jericho himself, since Jericho pretty much overpowers every other being in his entire universe solo. Like, it's not even fucking close. So just to get it off the table, how strong is the Darkwatch universe? Well, at the beginning of the game, the strongest vampire that's ever lived was Lazarus. Lazarus was so strong that being at the epicenter of an explosion that it blew up a train car that was made out of steel, as well as a several foot thick vault just completely getting destroyed by said explosion, did absolutely nothing to him. Now, this is particularly impressive because these vaults are designed for explosions to not do shit to them, and this one completely destroyed the entire vault. Lazarus just did not give a shit and just flew off. Not only is this a very impressive durability feat, but Lazarus eventually gets a massive power up and reaches a new form that is considerably stronger than this original form we see. On top of that, Jericho has the ability to get more powerful the more blood he intakes, and throughout the game he constantly steals people's blood over and over again until he's actually strong enough to fight this stronger version of Lazarus. After defeating Lazarus, he steals Lazarus's power, damn near doubling his own, to the point that he becomes so dangerous and so evil that God sends down an angel to stop him, and then he kills the fucking angel. He then steals the blood of yet another high-level vampire and becomes even stronger. So by the end of the game and the end of the evil run, Jericho is so fucking powerful that the most powerful vampire in the entire world of Darkwatch is just a fraction of his power, and even even angels can't fight against him. That pretty impressive vault explosion not hurting you shit that I talked about, he's so far surpassed that level that it's barely even a relevant feat anymore. Now, outside of Jericho himself, I don't think that the Darkwatch Universe is gonna be all that difficult for the demons to deal with. It's basically just a bunch of vampires or people who hunt vampires. Their guns are very, very powerful, as they are capable of eventually, with a lot of bullets, taking down the more powerful Lazarus. But outside of that, they're really just people with guns. And then you have a whole slew of different vampire types, all with different types of powers, like some that can turn invisible, and some that can teleport, and some that are really, really big and strong, and all of that. But it's really nothing that compares to just how powerful the demons of Doom get. So I really don't think that the Doom invasion is going to have that hard of a time actually taking any of them on. It's really just going to be Jericho. And what exactly can Jericho do? Well, he can do a lot. For one, abilities that he has regardless of being good or evil is one, blood vision, which allows him to sense any person around him, as well as the blood shield, which is just a constantly regenerating shield that protects him from damage. This on its own, for obvious reasons, is pretty useful. Now, the good Jericho powers are pretty cool. The best ones being fear, which is just him releasing passive fear and everyone around him just gets terrified and runs away, as well as Vindicator, which has him summoning lightning bolts at every enemy in his vicinity and just constantly killing him. He can just stand there and do nothing, and these lightning bolts will just rain and kill everyone around him. Those are really his two most powerful good abilities. But his evil abilities are far better. So we have the simple stuff like Blood Frenzy, which just increases his speed and strength tremendously. But then we have the more interesting ones like Black Shroud, which just releases a bunch of this smoke everywhere, just completely surrounding you. And the Shroud just kills everything in the vicinity. Every single person that it kills, it steals their essence and then brings their essence into Jericho, increasing his strength further. With the ability Turn, he can control the minds of the dead and make them attack enemies for him, basically becoming a necromancer. And then you have his most impressive move called Soul Stealer. Now, this is the one that's basically going to make him damn near impossible for the demons to actually kill. Soul Stealer just releases a pulse that steals the souls of every single person in his vicinity, brings their souls into him, empowering him further. Basically, evil Jericho no longer has to steal blood in order to become stronger. He can actually just feed off of souls. So while good Jericho needs to feed on blood, which would be useless because the demons don't have blood, good Jericho actually won't be able to empower himself any further. Evil Jericho can by stealing their soul. Now, this move doesn't work on everybody. Like, you can't use it on bosses like the angels and the big, stronger vampires. And it is true that the demons of Doom do have control over their own souls. So when a demon dies, they can physically bring their souls back to hell to regenerate their bodies and then return. This is one of the demon's strongest abilities, is the fact that they're basically immortal and you can kill as many of them as you want. That same demon's going to come back in a little bit once his body is regenerated, once its soul returns to hell. And they can control where their soul goes. Sometimes their souls will just straight up jump into other humans' bodies and just possess them. So the question becomes, can Jericho steal the souls of demons who have some control over their own soul? And my answer to that question would be, I think it's going to work on the vast majority of demons. I don't necessarily think it's going to work on the super heavies. I don't necessarily think it's going to work on the bosses, but it will work on the lower level ones. There's really no evidence that they have that much control over the soul that they can just resist straight up soul ripping. You also have the question of, would this ability be able to work on, say, the titans that are bigger than the fucking skyscrapers? You know, like, does that in any way make it harder for them to get soul sucked because they're so damn big? Like, is their soul bigger because they're bigger? I don't know. This is a weird one on me. I'm not sure if that would be effective. Like, if you're shown stealing the soul of like an average asshole dude, does that necessarily mean that you can steal the soul of a guy who's like 6,000 feet tall? I don't know. That's a new one that I just thought of just now. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. We're gonna put that one up in the ether. So the question becomes, with all of these different powers and abilities, how well will he do against the demon horde? And the truth is, he's gonna do pretty fucking well. Not only are his guns physically strong enough to harm pretty much any demon due to that vault feat, but because the vast majority of his hacks are just used passively, like anyone in his vicinity gets affected by them, that means he doesn't even really have to try in order to use them. Even if you want to say that Jericho's going to get vastly outnumbered by massive hordes of demons, he can just use the fucking soul steal power and the horde's fucking dead instantly. Not only that, he increases in power dramatically. He's already strong enough to take on most of the demons before we even throw him into the scenario. Now, while there is a possibility that Jericho can get possessed at some point or have his soul stolen in some way, that is possible. The fact that most characters can't even get close enough to him to actually do that is going to make that very very difficult for them to actually accomplish. So he's probably safe on that front too. So how far is Jericho getting in this survival challenge? I see him stopping at one of 2 points. One, he's not getting past most of the bosses. Despite Jericho's incredible power, I just don't see him beating characters like the Gladiator, like the Cyber Demon, and especially not the Icon of Sin. Like I said, since these characters have the ability to control their own souls, where their souls go, and Gladiator even stole a soul and locked it into his shield, all of these beings have soul control on some levels. So I'm not going to assume that the Soul Rip is going to work on the top tiers of the Doom hierarchy. And if the Soul Rip move doesn't work and basically all he's got is the Black Shroud and the Blood Shield and all that kind of stuff, the fact of the matter is that the higher up Doom demons just completely outclass him in terms of physicals. Even if Jericho continues to absorb souls and the blood of humans and shit and getting more and more powerful and just enhancing his abilities further and further and further, what's he going to do when he's shot by an Argent energy cannon that's fired by the Cyber Demon and it blows up every cell in his body? How is he going to survive that regardless of how powerful he is? Maybe you could say that because he's stealing the souls of demons, he might get a resistance to it like they have. And I'm not going to lie, that could be possible. But let's say that does happen. Jericho Cross, unlike anyone else on this list, is the most susceptible to being corrupted by the corruption. And I really don't see a way of him getting through this without that affecting him. Especially if we're using evil version Jericho Cross, right? Jericho Cross is a criminal. He is enticed by the idea of monetary gain. So you have good Jericho, which learns a valuable lesson, grows as a person, and is no longer that person who might actually resist the corruption a little bit, but is so much weaker and doesn't stand a chance against any of these characters. Or you have the evil Jericho Cross, who is considerably more powerful, but way more susceptible to the actual corruption, seeing as he was corrupted by the vampire power. So a considerably stronger corruption from the Doom universe is absolutely going to take hold of him. What's going to end up happening is Jericho Cross is going to become a boss demon. He will be corrupted and turn into a demon himself, a giant, really powerful, soul-sucking vampire version of a demon. And that's if he doesn't die by just being out in the fucking sun. That's right, Jericho Cross is a vampire. He can't go out in the sun. There are a couple of levels in Darkwatch that take place during the day where you have to like avoid the sun and be in the shadow the whole level. And that's really cool, but how are you going to fight a constant demon invasion for what will likely be several days or weeks or even months and never step into the sunlight? Their attacks aren't just gonna come for you at night. They're gonna come for you during the day too. How do you stay in the shade that whole time? Even with his ability to soul rip, there's no evidence that that's going to stop him from having that main vampire weakness, because at the end of the day, he's still a fucking vampire. So Jericho Cross, this little character from this little game no one remembers, actually gets really fucking far. Like I said, he's probably getting to the bosses and then being killed by one of the bosses. But even if he surpasses them in power by all that soul sucking he's doing, he's still getting corrupted, and then he's just going to become one of the demons. So his rank is going to be at bosses. I don't see him going any farther than that. He's not even close to equivalent of the Icon of Sin or Davith or any of the other godlike beings that exist in Doom. But I think with enough soul sucking, he may be able to match the bosses. Maybe. Until he succumbs to the corruption or every cell of his body is exploded by a fucking Argent energy weapon. Next up, we have the Crysis Universe, and boy, is this a good one. So in this scenario, the invasion is going to be taking place after the events of Crysis 3, where Prophet / Alcatraz, it's a whole confusing thing, I'll explain it, is at their absolute most powerful. So how does the world as a whole do? Pretty goddamn shitty overall. Outside of Prophet / Alcatraz himself, the top soldiers of the military do have suits that allow them to do things like cloak and give them super strength and things like that. Their actual weapons are pretty fucking basic. They're basically the same weapons that we have today. They have nuclear warheads, the machine guns and rifles and shotguns and all that kind of shit. It's real existing guns that we use in the real world. Simply put, these weapons are just not capable of harming the demons to any real extent. Even something as powerful as a nuke dropped on a large group of demons is not capable of killing some of the stronger ones. And this is where people are going to start disagreeing with me profoundly, but real life nukes just aren't that powerful when it comes to fictional universes. We've set off several nukes in fake towns where there are buildings and stuff just to see the effects that it would have, and for the most part, the buildings and physical structures are still there. Yeah, where the epicenter of the explosion actually happens, like where it hits, that shit falls over, but it's not like it completely eradicates all of the stone and metal within a town. It's just not that powerful. And most of the demons, even the weaker ones, are a lot stronger than stone and metal. Maybe you'll kill them with a massive amount of radiation, but I just find find it very hard to believe that the fucking demons that are literally made out of argent energy, which gives off a vast amount of radiation, is going to be harmed by some nuclear radiation. So I just don't see something like a nuke being all that effective. So to see how they'll do, we'll have to look at their most powerful beings, which is going to be Prophet / Alcatraz. And the reason why I keep calling him Prophet / Alcatraz is because there's like this whole thing where originally you play as this guy named Alcatraz, and then there's this guy named Prophet, and then Prophet puts his mind into the suit of this AI thing, and he becomes like an AI inside of a nano suit, and then Alcatraz wears that nano suit, but then Alcatraz kind of gives up his life so Prophet can take over his body. So now it's like Prophet's mind and Alcatraz's body, but then the suit rebuilds itself as Prophet's body. It's a whole fucking confusing thing, but basically Alcatraz and Prophet are like the same person now. I'm not gonna keep calling him Alcatraz / Prophet. I'm just gonna call him Prophet because he fucking looks like Prophet. He's got the mind of Prophet. It's fucking Prophet. So how powerful is Prophet? Pretty goddamn powerful. He's durable enough to survive things like a nuclear explosion, as well as a laser that's shot from space that was capable of completely evaporating the entirety of the Hudson River. And now while you can argue this is not necessarily a durability feat, because the nanosuit does have the ability to absorb a variety of different types of energies, including nuclear radiation, so perhaps that's not durability. I'm inclined to believe it's probably durability because, like I said before, metal generally survives nuclear explosions. And by the end of Crysis 3, Prophet is essentially just the nanosuit. There's no body there. He is just made out of metal now. So I don't think it's that much of a reach to say that he can survive a nuclear blast. On top of that, he's a very, very powerful form of regeneration. Essentially, as long as there is at least one body part there, the nanobots in his suit can just completely rebuild his entire body. Not only that, but every time he absorbs energy, the suit itself gets faster, stronger, and overall just more powerful. In the games, there's this extremely technologically advanced alien species called the Ceph, and at one point, Prophet basically hacks into their computers and shit, whatever you want to call it, their alien spaceship, and basically downloads all of the knowledge of their entire race into himself in the suit. So not only was turning Prophet's mind into an AI made him basically a supercomputer, but now he has all of the knowledge of an entire race of alien beings with all their technology, combat experience, tactics, and everything else. He's set in the game to be a strategist far superior than any human who's ever lived because he has all the strategies of this alien race just locked up in his head. Within the Crysis universe, he is the smartest, greatest tactician as well as greatest warrior who's ever lived, and that's even really possible. He was physically strong enough to push a rusted train that was just like stuck on the tracks up to top speed without even turning the fucking thing on. So basically the point I'm making is Prophet is really fucking powerful, and these strengths are really going to help him when going up against the demons. For instance, I don't think he's going to have to worry about the corruption at all because there's no evidence that the corruption can corrupt an AI. Prophet was once a human and was corruptible at one point, but by the end of Crysis 3, again, he's an AI. He's essentially a computer or a robot. And him being an AI defends him against more than just the corruption. The possession, the soul manipulation, all of that stuff that the demons can do, that's not going to work on a fucking computer. Computers don't have souls. On top of that, while I absolutely believe that demons are capable of damaging Prophet, because like I said, I don't think surviving a nuclear explosion is all that impressive since pieces of metal and stone can do it all the time. And the demons are shown to be physically more durable than both stone and metal, so they would also survive. Prophet's regenerative ability makes it kind of up in the air whether or not the demons are even capable of killing him permanently, regardless of how much they're capable of damaging his body. So all this different stuff together kind of makes Prophet sort of the perfect person to go up against the demons. So that being said, how far can he actually get? And honestly, not as far as you'd think based on that information. And that's because his guns are still just normal bullshit guns like the rest of the Crysis universe. The vast majority of his arsenal are just regular grenades, machine guns, and shit that you can get in the military today. And those weapons are not capable of harming the demons. Now, while he does get access to some alien weapons that he gets from the Ceph, none of them are really all that impressive. I mean, he has one weapon that can fire ice, and then he has another weapon that can open up little black holes, but it only works on very, very small enemies, like enemies that are the same size as a human. So it's not going to work on the vast majority of the most powerful demons within the Doom universe. He's really only going to be able to use it on fodder. Like even mid-tier demons like the Hell Knight and the Mancubus are too physically large to be affected by the Singularity Cannon. He also has a lightning gun and a bunch of stuff like that, but really, even his alien-based future tech weapons are pretty fucking weak when compared to all the things that the demons have shown to be able to tank and survive. Honestly, Prophet probably has a better chance against the demons if he just throws the guns to the side and uses his fists. He's physically strong enough to fight fight quite a few of them before he starts hitting the really strong guys that he just can't deal with anymore. But even with that, Prophet is not physically strong enough to fight against the super heavies or arguably even some of the heavies. Now don't get me wrong, they're not going to be able to kill him either. His regenerative ability made sure of that. But if they're not capable of killing him and he's not capable of killing them, that's really not a big deal for them because they'll still conquer the whole fucking world and he'll be the only one left. And then they'll just do the same thing they did to Doom Guy before Doom 2016. The demons have sealing magic, and before Doom 2016 they were able to lock Doom Guy into a magic sarcophagus where he was just tortured for billions of years inside of this coffin. They can do the exact same thing to Prophet, and since many of them are physically strong enough to overcome his strength, this will not be that hard for them to do. While Prophet will match the strength of someone like the Hell Knight, he likely will not match the strength of someone like the Baron of Hell, and he sure as shit is not matching the strength of someone like the Cyber Demon or Gladiator. It will not be that difficult for them to capture him and lock him up once the entire planet is completely taken over. Now I know one thing that's going to come up is the energy absorption, and people are going to ask, well, can't Prophet just absorb Argent energy since the suit is capable of absorbing energy, and then he'll just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger just like Doom Guy, because Doom Guy has the ability to absorb Argent energy and add it to his strength, and he basically became a god doing this. So couldn't Prophet do the same? I'm going to assume no. And the reason why that is because the suit in the Crysis universe is capable of absorbing all manner of energies. This includes nuclear energy, electricity, even the weird alien energy that the Ceph creates. That's all cool, but none of those energies are like human souls. Argent energy is souls. If it was just some sort of generic alien form of energy, I would say yes, but it's not. It's fucking souls. His suit being able to absorb regular bullshit forms of energy is not the same thing as being able to absorb souls itself. He's not like Jericho, who is shown being able to absorb souls and obtaining power from it. I just don't know if I could classify Argent energy as a regular energy source the same way you would classify something like electricity or nuclear power. Argent energy isn't science, it's magic, and that's a little out of Prophet's realm. Now, I do think Prophet will get a little bit stronger because he'll be able to absorb more energies during his fight with the demons, just energies that he finds on Earth. He might even go out of his way to absorb more energies that he finds on Earth to prepare himself to fight demons. It's not going to be close to enough for him to actually fill that gap between his current power and someone like the Cyber Demon's power. Prophet is insanely powerful and damn near unstoppable in his universe, but his universe is considerably weaker than the Doom universe. He never has to fight someone of equivalent power to himself, so he doesn't need guns that are capable of bringing something like him down. Like, the weapons in his universe aren't capable of harming him. They just bounce off his fucking body, and that's exactly what they're going to end up doing to the Doom Demon. Prophet, for the first time since he's acquired all this power, is going to have to fight beings who are just as strong to even stronger than him. He's never had to do that before, and I'm not even sure that all that combat experience and prowess is really going to help him against a force this much stronger than what he's ever faced before. It might help a little bit, but it's certainly not going to turn the tides of the war, especially since it's an entire race of beings he doesn't have any knowledge about and doesn't understand how they work. He's not even going to know about something like the corruption, let alone actually be able to take the steps to stop it from affecting his entire fucking planet. Yeah, so it sucks to be Prophet, but it seems like his future is just sealing forever, just being trapped somewhere and imprisoned in hell for all of eternity. Jesus Christ, I'd almost rather just be dead. Oh God, I'm losing my voice. All right, it's fine. We got one more and we're done. That's all we got. All right, what's the last one? Is fucking Borderlands? Ugh. Why the fuck did I do Borderlands? Borderlands has so many characters. Oh, you dumbass. Okay, it's okay. All right, let's do it. It's fine. So Borderlands has two major advantages that none of the other games that I've talked about already have. One being their universe is actually a universe, right? With Darkwatch, it's just the planets, and the story really only takes place in one small section of one small area. Cyberpunk's the same way. The whole game takes place in one city. The whole universe, pretty much every story that's told in Cyberpunk happens in one single city. Borderlands isn't like that. Borderlands is a whole universe with several planets and societies and factions and giant mega corporations that make lots of guns that are basically their own separate government entities. There's a lot more in the Borderlands universe to fight against the demons, and once a planet falls to the demons, that doesn't necessarily mean the Borderlands loses, because they're not just protecting one area. They can always regroup to another planet, replan a strategy, and then go from there. The second advantage they have over all the other universes that I've talked about is there isn't just one or two characters that are vastly superior to all the other characters. Yes, the Sirens are vastly superior to everybody else, but there are a lot of characters in the Borderlands world who are capable of fighting against the demons. And again, with all the factions and crazy space weapons and like, what is there, 18 different protagonists to play as across the 4 games they've had, every single fucking one of them is capable of doing something against the demons. So you just have a larger roster of characters to pull from to defend your universe against this oncoming demon invasion. Both of those things are going to help them out tremendously. So let's fucking get into it. What are some of the biggest weapons that they might have against the demons? We'll start off with one that's not really that obvious, but the vault monsters. In the lore of Borderlands, when you open up a vault, a big ass fucking vault monster comes out. And some of these vault monsters in the lore are said to be capable of decimating a planet on their own. Now, how literally do I take that? Not very literally. And that's mainly because the word decimate means to take something and make it 1/10 of what it originally was. No one in the history of the English language has ever used decimate properly. When we say decimate, we just mean fuck it up real bad. We don't actually mean the legit meaning. So I'm not going to jump to the conclusions that when they say decimate, they mean they're going to take the planet and make it 1/10 of what it was. Also, nothing else in the entire series even comes close to that level of power, including all the Vault Hunters who we've seen defeat those monsters. So no, I'm not going to say that these monsters are capable of literally destroying the planet. What I will say is that if they are allowed to leave the vault and not dealt with, they are probably capable of running amok across the planet, killing tons of people and destroying a lot of shit. But no, they're not about to destroy the planet. That's just not happening. Now, will these giant monsters be strong enough to actually fight against the demons? A good portion of them, yeah. The small ones and the medium ones, I think, for sure. Just based on size alone, they'll probably end up taking out quite a few. However, one of the strengths of the demons is that they completely outnumber their opponents. So it's not really that hard to see that the demons will just swarm these giant beasts, attacking them from all sides, and it'll eventually just go down. But while it is an option to release these giant beasts to fight against the demons, it'll certainly help the war effort against them, but it's not going to be a permanent solution. It's not like we're just going to let all these monsters go and watch what happens and the demons will be wiped out. That's just not happening. But it may buy the Borderlands universe some more time if the demons have to deal with all this bullshit. So that is one option they have. The next thing we got are all of the different weapon corporations, which are essentially their own private military. And they are known to have a lot of very powerful weapons. They're capable of just completely carpet bombing entire sections of a planet, destroying basically everything and laying waste to large sections of planets. If the demons invade, could they just bombard them from space? Yes, they absolutely could. Does that mean that they will actually win the war? No, not even a little bit. For a couple of reasons. One reason being that once the demons actually have access to a new universe, they can open up portals anywhere they want within that entire universe. That means they don't have to stay on the surface of a single planet. They can teleport directly into these giant space shuttles that are bombarding the planets and take it out from the inside and not really have to worry about the bombardments too much. In fact, they can just start spreading to any planet they want from that point. They don't have to stay on the first planet they invade. Once they get access to a universe, it's open season on pretty much everything. Basically, the moment the demons start seeing the bombardment happen, they'll start teleporting inside that base and destroying it from the inside. And the demons don't really care about dying in war because 1, they don't have fear, and 2, their soul just goes right back into hell and their body regenerates and they can just go and attack again. If the Borderlands universe is to win this war, it's going to be from their warriors being able to take on the actual demons and eventually fighting their way and defeating David. And the question becomes, how far do they get? Anyone who's played Borderlands is going to know they're not beating David. There just isn't really any god level beings in the Borderlands universe. Well, there are. They're revealed at the end of Borderlands 2, but then Borderlands 3 completely fucking ignored them for some reason. I don't know. So at what time period is the Borderlands universe at its absolute strongest to the point that it would stand the best chance against the demon invasion? And sadly, that would be in Borderlands 3. I don't like Borderlands 3, guys. That game fucking sucked. But there's absolutely no doubt. That's where the most sirens are available for combat. That's where we have the most fighters. That's the game where all of the best feats occur. That's just clearly the point in the Borderlands timeline where they are at their strongest, regardless of how shitty that story actually is. So the invasion's gonna start at the beginning of Borderlands 3, before Lilith uses her powers and before Tyreen is killed. That point makes the most sense because Lilith still has her powers, Tyreen's not dead, Maya's not dead. That's 3 very powerful sirens that will be in the Borderlands team being able to go up against the demons. So, how do they do? Firstly, let's talk about how strong the Borderlands guns are. Because I didn't actually know this going on. I never calculated the strength of the guns while I was playing the games. Who the fuck does that? So I started doing some research and seeing what other people thought. And basically, I found this calculation where people took the loader robots, those basic bitch loader robots that you fight 1,000 of in every game, and they calculated how powerful those things are based on them being dropped from the moon moon to the surface of Pandora in 4 seconds. And basically they came to the conclusion that if you shot a dude from that far, that fast, and hit the surface of the earth, and that thing doesn't have a scratch on it, it would have to be physically durable enough to take a blast strong enough to wipe out a large town. That means that the little basic bitch loader robots are a large town, and all the guns that you use in those games have to at least be capable of damaging them, because they do. They kill the loader robots. Do I know if these calculations are right or not? No. Am I gonna fucking do the math myself? Fuck no. Out of your goddamn mind. So we're just gonna go with it and see what happens. If that is indeed true, and all of these guns are like large town level, at bare minimum, because the loader robots are basic bitch enemies, that would mean that the top fighters of Borderlands should be able to damage, if not kill, the majority of the ground troops of demons. I mean, imps and gargoyles for sure, obviously, but now you're getting up into Hell Knights and Mancubuses and possibly even some super heavies. Those are some pretty powerful fucking guns. And I can get into all the different craziness that the guns get into, where like you reload your gun and it has fucking legs and walks around, or you throw your gun and it explodes, or like all the different crazy effects that the randomized guns in Borderlands has. But honestly, none of that's really relevant, and all that really matters is, does the gun damage the demons? And yes, it does. The higher end power that we see in the Borderlands is that's gonna be Lilith. At the end of Borderlands 3, Lilith uses all the power she has, flies up, blows up on the surface of Pandora, and she makes this giant bird symbol across the whole surface where they could see it from another planet, and they're looking up, and it's like really impressive, right? That's a lot. Like, even if you want to say that all of that surface is destruction, and that's like a fucking continent, right? Like it's covering a lot of area right there. The problem with that feat is that the demons blew up the moon. Like, they just fucking blew up the whole moon. It's right there. Now, to be fair, we don't know how they blew up the moon. We don't see it happen. We just see the aftermath. Doom Guy comes back from hell and sees that the moon has exploded and the planet is like 70 or 80% taken over. So we're not sure how it happened, but this does mean that they're capable of doing it. So while that feat of Lilith doing that shit to the planets is impressive, she didn't blow up the fucking moon. Not to mention the humans of Doom actually made the BFG 10,000, which is strong enough that Doom Guy shot it at Mars and it blasted a hole clear through Mars. Like, just right fucking through it. That's the kind of weaponry the humans of the Doom universe have, and they were not capable of stopping the demon invasion, despite having that level of firepower. And that cannon can just be shot casually. Like, you can shoot it again. Lilith had to use all of her power, everything she had, to the point that it killed her doing this amount of force. And it doesn't really even come close to what the humans of Doom are capable of doing, and they were still overrun by the demons and couldn't fight back. And that's not even talking about the universe-wide corruption and reality warping abilities of the Icon of Sin, or the fact that demons will just keep coming back, or Argent energy weapons that explode every cell in your body the moment they fucking touch you. Really, when you factor all that other shit in, the only siren that actually really stands a chance is going to be, sadly, Tyreen. Tyrene's siren power allows her to leech the life force from other people. This is the reason why she becomes the most dangerous siren in the Borderlands universe. She steals the power of another siren and basically like doubles her power, but she could steal the powers and life force of pretty much anybody. If she starts going around and absorbing and leeching the powers of demons, she'll start getting extremely fucking powerful. Now, it is possible she can have an adverse reaction to the Argent if she's absorbing that energy, because that energy does kill most people. But I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt and saying that since her power is life force absorption, I'm just gonna give it to her. The problem with that is that Tyreen is kind of an evil piece of shit who's obsessed with power, which means she will be very susceptible to the corruption. So she can keep absorbing demons all she wants. She's gonna eventually become one and then just join their side against the Borderlands world. So how well do I think the Borderlands world will do? I think most of their fighters will be able to fight against the lower ground troops and even the mid-ground troops. Their better fighters, like the actual Vault Hunters, will probably be able to fight against the super heavies with great difficulty, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be one-sided. Although, they still have a massive speed disadvantage when it comes to the Marauder. Like, a massive speed disadvantage. And they do have a strength disadvantage when it comes to the Baron of Hell. So that is something they're going to have to deal with. I think you're going to see a legit war that happens on the surface of the planet between the demons and the stronger people of the Borderlands universe, ergo the Vault Hunters. universe. I think the most powerful sirens are going to be able to defeat the super heavies and continue on, but possibly even the stronger beings like the Icon of Sin. But here's the thing, none of them are beating the Icon of Sin or anyone above that level. And Tyreen, even if she does get to the point where she's strong enough to compete with them due to absorbing demons' powers, she's just going to get corrupted and become a much bigger issue for all of the Borderlands world. Now they're going to have to deal with an all-powerful siren demon who can absorb powers and is just going to keep getting stronger again and again and again. This one's very interesting because it's not really a survival match. It is a legitimate war between two very powerful universes, but I don't see any way that the Borderlands universe could possibly win. For the most part, they're just a universe that hits really, really hard. They lack any sort of hacks or hacks resistance that will allow them to survive all that shit. And while their base power is higher than the base power of the demons, the peak of their power is nowhere near the peak of the most powerful demons. So yeah, I think at the beginning they're going to start slaughtering everybody and they're going to feel really comfortable that they can win the war until the big boys show up, and then they're going to realize they are way over their fucking heads. And they're going to get wiped the fuck out, not only by the demons, but by a turned Tyreen. But that's going to be all from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm not going to tell you to like, subscribe, and all that, because I already did that at the beginning of the video. Don't like to repeat myself, but you know, you should still, do it. Always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?